John Dewey. John Dewey was an American philosopher, psychologist, and pedagogue. Dewey was born on October the 20th, 1859 in Burlington, Vermont, USA, in a middle-class family. He was the third of three boys born to the family. He attended the University of Vermont and graduated in 1879. In 1884, he got his PhD from Johns Hopkins University. He worked as a teacher at University of Michigan, Chicago, Minnesota, and Columbia University. He traveled the world as a philosopher, social political theorist, and educational consultant to Japan, China, Turkey, and toured schools in the Soviet Union. He died in New York on June 1st, 1952. His schools of thought were pragmatism and instrumentalism. He preferred to be considered an instrumentalist, which is a methodological view where ideas are useful instruments, and they gain their value when they explain and predict phenomena effectively. His other school was pragmatism, which considers the practical effects of objects of our conception, then our conception of those effects is the whole of our conception of the object, as Peirce described in his pragmatic maxim. Dewey's major concepts on education. Progressive education. According to Study.com, a teaching website, progressive education is essentially a view of education that emphasizes the need to learn by doing. Dewey believed that human beings learn through a hands-on approach. From Dewey's educational point of view, this means that students must interact with their environment in order to adapt and learn. Dewey felt the same idea was true for teachers and that teachers and students must learn together. His view of the classroom was deeply rooted in democratic ideals, which promoted equal voice among all participants in the learning experience.
Dewey made an approach which was truly child-centered. So the emphasis is placed on learning on the need and interest of the child. This means children should be allowed to explore their environment. Dewey began to develop a theory of knowledge that contested the dualism of mind and world, thought and action. So then he argued that thought was not a congeries of sense impressions or an artifact of consciousness or a manifestation of a complete mind, but slightly a mediating instrumental function that had grew to serve the interests of human survival and benefit. This theory is emphasized the necessity of testing thought by action, if thought was to pass into knowledge. In addition, his work was to explore the implication of his functional pedagogy and test it by experiment. So, with this, he was sure that many of the problems with fundamental practices grew out of their foundation in a damaged dualistic epistemology, which means how to learn.
Interdisciplinary curriculum. It is focused on connecting multiple subjects in which students are permitted to freely move in and out classroom as they pursue their interests and build their own paths for acquiring and applying knowledge. The roles of the teacher must be more as a facilitator than instructor. Another theory is that the human past and present experience influence in the capacity to learn. This theory emphasizes that past experience and even those that we live in today have shaped the way we think, assimilate, and interact with the new learning we acquire. This is because the same brain process we use to remember the past can also help us plan the future and imagine different possible scenarios. We have all heard affirmations such as everything happens for a reason or you learn lessons for each experience.
Dewey's concepts we identify with our interdisciplinary curriculum and human experiences build knowledge. The first one is because of its flexibility to help the student build by themselves the path they want in education. And the second one is because it is through experiences that we discover what already exists in the universe.